I will not be patronized by this squire who lies about court, waiting to be fated with gift upon gift upon gift, and risks nothing. Nothing. He may acquire more property in this world, find more favor, eat more, drink more, bed more, and otherwise call himself a man of arms. But in this hall, and any other, in my company, he will call me sir. Sir. Sir.
Indeed, good sir. Enjoy your time in Paris, Sir Jean.
You're listening to The Night Before, a movie podcast. Each episode, we find a unique place in the city and share a drink and our thoughts about the movie we watched the night before. This is Lee, and I am joined, as always, by my husband, Jesse.
What's wrong with your microphone?
I have beer on it.
Oh.
Okay. So let's begin.
We're rolling already.
We're rolling. Okay, let's begin.
Let's give some context. This is a much better atmosphere. This is take two.
It's a much better atmosphere. This is take two for our podcast today.
We were originally...
And
our buddy Broseph is laughing at us. He's going to take a photo of us. I know it. He's already pulling out his phone. It's happening.
And
he's probably sending it to his wife.
We had take one earlier at Gingerbeard over coffee. And we
ran into some technical difficulties.
We ran into some difficulties.
In
general.
It's all about perspective. No, we haven't done a podcast over coffee in a while. Let's be honest. Though the original concept of this podcast was about the next morning from the night before,
yes,
we've tended to do it later in the afternoon or evening over drinks instead of coffee. And though we had a lot to say about The Last Duel, and we still do.
We still do.
I think we kind of meandered. It became a very bloated, long conversation where we were talking in circles a bit. And I think we could do it a little bit better.
It became a little too loose.
And we need a more focused conversation. And maybe that helps over drinks. So
we decided, after some deliberation, we decided on a take two. It's still Christmas Eve, same day.
Same day, still talking about the night before.
Later in the day.
We're at our favorite local brewery.
Our stomping grounds, if you may.
And it only took us 26 episodes to get here to our favorite spot.
To our favorite spot. It really is. It's right down the street from our house.
It's almost like we didn't want to expose this side to us, to our local folks.
Yeah, I mean, the people here, awesome, amazing, bartenders, owners.
We tend not to mind podcasting in public, but this one was a little more daunting because we had to
It's a little more daunting.
We
have
to
to
tell our
expose
friends.
ourselves a little more.
So we're sitting at the end of the bar with our microphones like we're ESPN sports commentators.
Yeah, so we're at Angry Chair.
I think this is our first time also podcasting at a bar, like at the bar top. Normally we sit at a table secluded in the corner.
True. And Angry Chair has the best beer in Tampa. I mean, pretty much, yeah.
They do.
Really.
We're blessed.
They really do. We love Magnanimous.
Hashtag blessed.
But Angry Chair is kind of like your local, like, awesome watering hole beer.
So we did a warm-up with their IPA. We normally do their IPA called Space Grass, which is our favorite for years. So much so, like, we walk in, they go, oh, two Space Grasses?
Yeah.
But instead, we tried a double IPA called Eviction Party.
Eviction Party, double IPA.
Which is really good.
It's really good.
And
but now we are drinking, Cripes?
Yeah, it's like a pineapple sour.
It's a pineapple sour, and it's so good. It's not sour at all.
But it's pineapple-y.
Tastes like pineapple juice.
Lives up to its name.
Literally.
So basically, before we get... So it's really good. We're hanging out here.
Yeah.
But before we go any further, just to let folks know, for The Last Duel, our goal, the other reason why we wanted to try this again was, though there's a lot to say about The Last Duel,
Yes.
the main point of this episode is like a public service announcement.
Everyone needs to watch it.
Go see The Last Duel.
Go see The Last Duel. You won't regret it. Everyone will love it.
It's not what it seems.
It's not what it seems. It's a period piece, which could turn you off a little bit, which does to me often, but it's an amazing movie. Just captivating at every moment.
Yeah. So we got that. But what I also want to do real quick is we need to tie up some loose ends in the fact that for the last few episodes, we've talked about our Andrew Garfield double feature.
Yes.
But
Mainstream and Tammy Faye.
The Eyes of Tammy Faye. We're not going to have that episode, basically, because it's past the night before.
It's past the night before. We never got around to recording it.
And the
although
Hallmark
we really
movies got in the way.
enjoyed that double feature movie.
So that's my quick
night.
question to you. Should people see The Eyes of Tammy Faye and Mainstream? Are those movies that people should watch?
Yes, both of them, yes. Mainstream more so than Eyes of Tammy Faye, I felt, personally. I really liked
Tammy
Mainstream.
Faye did better critically than
It did,
Mainstream.
but in my opinion, I really enjoyed Mainstream more. But I liked Eyes of Tammy Faye because we grew up in that time period and that was a thing. But I was really captivated by the Mainstream more because it was a bit of a different movie.
It is different, and I think that's why it's been panned by some critics. So I agree with you. So do you think that if people only have one Andrew Garfield movie to see from 2021,
Mainstream,
it should be Mainstream?
in my opinion.
Yeah,
They were
so-
both good, but Mainstream.
No, I
If
like
you
Mainstream.
wanna
I like Mainstream a lot
pick
more.
one more than the other.
But Mainstream was a bit over top about
Social media.
social media, YouTube influencers, getting caught up in that whole thing. I think it's like far-fetched on purpose to kind of make it's exaggerated.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe that's why it had its bad points. But I did want to take the moment that those are two good movies worth to see. But that's all.
Yeah.
So that'll be our Andrew Garfield double feature.
I mean, we loved it, but we're not going to talk about it any further.
Yeah, and we're probably not going to get around to seeing Click Click Boom or Boom Boom Click or
Yeah, I'm not sure what that's about, but
it's the other new Andrew Garfield movie
No, I know that, but
on Netflix
Right.
about the creator of the Broadway musical Rent.
oh, okay, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so it's not
Okay.
an Andrew Garfield triple feature.
Gotcha. Okay, so
So
The Last Duel.
The big question is, I don't know. One thing we did talk about previously, which I think is still interesting, is the trailer.
Mhm.
Like, I wasn't very interested initially seeing this, but you were.
I was because I had listened to a
Heard.
podcast. I had heard a podcast with Matt Damon on it. And although he didn't talk about it the whole time, he, at the end of the podcast, talked about his process of making this movie with Ben Affleck. And I was intrigued in the fact that it was their first movie together since Good Will Hunting.
Goodwill, yeah.
And so I thought it was something more than just a period piece. So
And they-
I knew it was something.
Yeah. And Ridley Scott directed it.
Right.
And Ridley Scott's
yeah.
done a great many things. But what I thought is interesting is you don't think of this as a Matt Damon and Ben Affleck movie, even after seing it. Good
No,
Will
not
Hunting,
really.
you definitely think it.
Yeah. It's nothing like Good Will Hunting, but I mean, Good Will Hunting was an amazing movie. It won Oscars, and they haven't, like I was saying, they haven't made another movie in like 25 years. So they've put a lot of thought and process into this, as they talked about in the podcast that I listened to. Like, a lot of thought and process have gone into this, and it has to be good. You know, like, you have to think that they're not just trying to, like, roll out movie after movie because they did well on their first movie. Like they,
Well, they
kind of
also-
went their own ways, and
They also co-wrote it with a woman as well. But it's, so it's hard to say how much is them, how much is her.
right.
But it's still,
She had a part of the process.
yeah. Trying to pull her up here. Yeah.
Writer, yeah.
Nicole Center.
Hall of Center.
Yeah. But anyway, it's really good. But I wasn't initially into it because I felt it was just this like knights in shining armor, chainmail fighting movie from, and then when you
And
watch,
I'm not into stuff like that either.
and I played the trailer for us, before we watch the movie. I tend to like put trailers on to see which one is like we're feeling. And you even said like, oh, well, is that what we're going to watch? I'll watch that.
Yeah.
Because I thought I was surprised. And the only reason I was really interested in it, I wasn't initially into it, but then a podcast I listened to, folks who saw it talked about how good it was.
Right.
And the trailer does this balancing act of saying it's about knights in the late 1300s, 100 Years' War. But what it's really at the core is a woman, Matt Damon's wife, who's the subject of an alleged sexual assault against her. And so it's the trailer kind of bounces between the two. And if you're paying attention to the trailer, you go, oh, there's more to this. It's really not this like action-packed medieval movie.
Yeah.
And once I realized that, I was into it.
Yes. It's a movie that pulls in kind of a period piece with, the historical, but also brings in a lot of modern themes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely applies to a modern lens. But yeah, so why should people see this? I don't know. Why?
Well, people should see this
Because this is
I
our
think
public
it's-
service announcement.
yeah,
This is like a non-traditional
it's
episode.
unique in the fact of how it's shot with the 3 different perspectives.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
We really like that. Both
So-
of us really enjoyed that aspect.
We
of
did,
it.
but at first I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah, we were kind of like,
Uh-oh.
at first. Like, they're going to tell the same story 3 times.
Because it opens up with the duel, the last duel.
Uh-huh.
It opens up with that, and then all of a sudden it cuts just as the duel's starting. And the duel is between Adam Driver and Matt Damon. So there's no spoiler there. And then all of a sudden it cuts to chapter 1, which basically says the truth according to
Matt
Damon's
Damon,
character.
whatever his character is, yeah.
And then after about an hour, it stops and it says like chapter 2. The story,
truth according to
Adam Driver's
Adam
character.
Driver.
And you're like, oh no. At least I was.
Yeah, we're going to watch the whole thing again.
It's going to do this whole deal again. And so I was a little worried at first when that happened. But then, as I'm watching it, I realized, oh no, it's actually...
It
this
actually gives
works.
you an insight into, it's all about perception, right? Like how you perceive, how people react to you, how you perceive your words and actions are interpreted by other people,
Yeah.
how you perceive yourself in society.
And then I'll admit, I was not expecting, but then I should have been, because the movie is long, 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
I honestly thought you would get Damon's perspective, Driver's perspective. But then what does it do? Chapter 3,
Jodie Comer's perspective.
characters. Matt Damon's wife perspective.
The wife who was sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
Which I don't even like the word sexually assaulted. She was raped.
No, I know, but
Yeah.
I was setting it up the way the movie's
Right,
presented,
yeah,
like
no,
without
she is.
giving anything away, because part of the thing is there's a trial that says
Yeah.
she's claiming she was raped,
She's claiming she was raped.
but in
she
the
was.
whole trial, the duel is setting up sexual, like especially if you mention a modern lens.
And I think your expectation of when you know that she's accusing Adam Driver of sexual assault or rape, you expect his perspective to be quite opposite of the fact that, oh, he didn't rape her. It was completely consensual. She was egging him on, having an affair, whatnot. But it wasn't that, which was surprising. Like, he knew he raped her, but in his
Well-
mind,
Yeah. Well,
he didn't.
he maybe didn't know he raped her. In his mind, he didn't think he did.
Hmm.
That's what I thought was interesting. When they show, obviously in Matt Damon's perspective, they don't show the rape because he wasn't there. He's just reacting to it. But when it showed Adam Driver's reaction, or his version of the story, his perception, as the viewer, you said, oh no, wait, she was definitely raped.
Yeah, definitely.
Which, like you said, you don't expect. You expect his version of the story
To be vastly different than
to
hers.
not have. But then you're like, oh no.
No, he raped
This
her
is an
in
assault.
his
This is
version
rape. Yeah.
of the story. Yeah.
And then it gets even worse when you
But
see her
because
version.
of the time period, he kind of felt, and his status and whatnot, he felt,
Yeah, not even. Yeah,
in
Part-
his mind, he felt, I can't
yeah, I
think
was
of the
gonna
word
say,
at this moment.
Not even part of his status, but just his way of life. Like his character is presented as womanizing.
Entitled. He felt entitled to have her.
He does a lot of this. He participates in orgies
Yeah.
with Ben Affleck's character, who's like a
Yeah.
lord of the land. And he almost sees any woman as willing to sleep with him.
If she even looks at him kind of a little bit too long or longingly.
And
or
part of his
whatever.
whole thing is that he like plays the cat and mouse game with them.
Mm-hmm.
And he interpreted her like kind of running away from him as another cat and mouse game. That she was playing hard to get. That it was just that, and that's what I think was interesting.
But of course, she's going to say no because she's a lady.
Yeah.
But she really wanted it.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So that was one of the things I think people should see the movie is it does this really interesting thing with three different perspectives. Like Matt Damon's perspective as the husband, he's a knight. Adam Driver's character, which is
Squire.
he's the squire, but he's also the assaulter, I guess is the word. Assaulter? Doesn't sound right. Attacker? Predator?
Predator.
And then Jodie Comer's character is the victim.
Yeah.
She's the one who's raped. But you see all three views, and each of their perspectives are subtle. Nothing is like over the top.
Yeah, it's very subtle but very intriguing. Like, it makes such a difference. Just the little things, even the shoes. Like when she ran up the stairs during Adam Driver's perspective. It shows her carefully taking off her shoes and running up the stairs away from him like a cat and mouse game. But when it's her perspective, it shows her shoes kind of like falling off and her tripping and
As she's running
kind
up
of
the stairs.
like hurriedly running up the stairs trying to get away from him.
You knew what would happen to me should you lose this duel. You knew and you didn't tell me.
God will not punish those who tell the truth.
My fate and our child's fate will be written not by God's will, but by which old man will tire first.
How dare you speak to me this way?
What if I to lose? I begged you to find another way, and now I might be burned alive.
I am risking my life for you.
You are risking my life so you can fight your enemy and save your pride. And that could render our child an orphan. Or did you not think of that?
So I think as a woman watching this movie, although I don't think it's the whole like aspect of the movie.
Yeah.
I think as a woman watching it, you can't deny that the parallels in like modern times right now.
Looking at it through a modern lens.
Looking at it through a modern lens of,
Even though it's 600-something years removed.
even though it's 600
I agree,
years removed.
Yeah. Which is
and
crazy
and women
if you
are
think
not
about it.
property
If you think about it.
by any means.
Though, yeah, it's not as extreme.
It's not as extreme. Women
But-
still
Yeah.
face the same things. I think the most poignant moment of that movie was the mother's conversation with her when the mother says, "Why are you even bringing this up? Like, why are you making a big deal about this? This happens to women all the time. Women in that day and age get raped all the time, just like now. Women get harassed and sexually assaulted and sexually abused and mentally abused by men all the time now. Some men haven't moved on to the fact that they are more powerful than women. And women have to make a choice, like she did, in saying, am I going to speak up about this? Am I going to say this wrong in my workplace, in my home, in my whatever, my everyday life, that I shouldn't be treated this way? She had to take that same risk. And will my husband not side with me, not back me up, not believe me? And in that sense, for her, if her husband didn't side with her, it wasn't even a thing. Like, she couldn't, no one would listen to her if her husband didn't side with her. But nowadays, it's like, am I going to cause all this stink? Where some people still today are like, just be quiet. Who cares that he touched your butt? Or who cares that he grabbed you?
Is it worth the trouble?
Is it worth the trouble
to
of
go through
losing
all
your
this?
job
Yeah.
or whatever, or having trouble in your marriage or whatnot? And I think that it's such a striking feeling of parallel, even though it was the 14th century, of still today, even though we've come a long, long way, still today, I think it's, you can't help but that resonate with you as you watch it.
We can't help but see the modern context.
Exactly.
Even though this is feudal Europe, even though it is sort of the patriarchy of the time.
Exactly.
That women are property, that even in Matt Damon's character.
But there are still some
You could draw
resonating
connections.
things that exist from that. From
But at the
back
same
then.
time, this isn't like an over-the-top, like hit you over the head with that message.
Definitely not.
And that's what I liked about it, that the perspectives, it asks a lot of the viewer to say, hey, you need to reflect on what you're watching. Make those modern connections yourself.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's not like...
It's not over the top, but as a woman, you can so relate to her emotion. Like, it's hard to watch the rape scene.
Oh,
it's
of
hard
course.
to watch.
Well, it's even harder to
hard
watch.
to watch her being dismissed by every male around her. You know, it's very, as a beautiful, smart, intelligent woman, that's hard to watch as a character.
Well, what do you hear everybody... Though I would never put it as like a Me Too type film.
No.
But what do you always hear people say, right, is that I'm listening, right? They make this mistake, they make a blunder, and they'll say things like, I'm listening now, right? And I thought that's what this movie does a really good job of. If, as the viewer, it puts a lot on the viewer, right? It respects the viewer. We see everything through Matt Damon's perspective. And initially, we're kind of siding with him and think he's like a good guy.
Nice guy.
We see things through Adam Driver's perspective, and we're like, uh-oh. He's kind of a bad guy, but we sympathize
He's
with him
the-
a little bit.
You know,
He's still-
villain.
It's a tough role to play. I'm never crazy about Adam Driver as an actor, but
Now we hate him. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, that's a tough role to play.
That is,
like, you're
yeah.
a pretty despicable person.
He is despicable in this movie. Yeah.
But then as the viewer, then you're shown everything through Jodie Comer's perspective, and you're like, oh, wow, even Matt Damon doesn't come off well
As
in this.
good. Like, she's property.
He's
period.
part of the problem.
He's
Right.
part of the problem. Yes, she is not happy in her marriage, but no, she did not seek pleasure outside of her
But
marriage.
he's like, if
Yeah.
I'm happy, you're happy,
yeah.
basically, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
But But I think what's so powerful about this movie is that role of perspective in all of it, right? It's that we see even still today, people look at things of like, oh, I'm not coming off as sexist. Oh, I'm not coming off as insensitive.
Because that's their perspective.
Because
You're not
until
looking
you're
at-
exposed to the other side of it, and I think this movie gives you a chance to reflect, like I said, not that it sets you up as the viewer, but it does. Like you're watching it and you're like, oh, whoa. Like a lot of times in a movie, right, you look for the growth of the characters. Like what is their arc? How do they change, right? You think
Matt Damon falls
no,
as a character.
He doesn't change. No, Matt. There are no dynamic. The male characters aren't dynamic.
No,
they don't
you're just
change.
seeing them from the different perspective.
But what I'm saying is, we're the dynamic character in this movie. You watch and you challenge your own perspective of how you
It's
viewed
true.
the
You're
characters
the
at the
dynamic.
beginning by the end.
That's true. Yeah.
And that's what I thought was so great about this film is even as the viewer, you're the one that's being challenged throughout this whole thing.
Definitely.
So you're not going to see Matt Damon doesn't come around and say, oh my gosh, I understand my wife's viewpoint now.
Right.
His thing is still like, I want to be respected. I'm a knight.
This
I'm
is
a
about
sir.
pride.
This is my property. Adam Driver's character not only took my property from my dowry that was promised to me
But
by my wife,
damaged
but
my
now he's taken
wife.
my wife.
Yeah.
As evident by the scene when he says later, he will not be the last man who's experienced you.
Yeah.
And when she's
that was the worst
and when
part. Oh my god.
and when she tells him that she's been raped, it's not her that's been wronged in his eyes.
It's him. He doesn't even care about her. Yeah. And then he forces her to have sex with him right after because he doesn't want Adam Driver to be the last man who's experienced his wife. And it's devastating to watch that. It is absolutely devastating to watch that.
So that's what I mean. That's what's so powerful about the movie. That's what I think is unique about it. Have we seen plenty of movies that kind of expose the problems of a patriarchal society, that exposes the male dominant thing? And is that still present in this movie? 100%. At the end of the day, this is a period piece, but it's a pissing contest between two men.
Yeah.
It still ends up with two men fighting over their pride.
It's a duel. Yeah, in the
their
end.
pride, a woman, their own male dominance.
Right.
Right? But it's both of their downfalls.
Like who lied? Who wins? Like who wins the girl?
Who's gonna? Yeah, that's what this movie is at the end of the time. It's no different than two bros battling it out on the playground, and the girl in the middle, who is still just at their mercy.
Who's the victim?
Yeah, and that's
in all of it.
So you don't come out this piece out of that. So, but I think what helps it, or what is unique about this, without trying to rewrite history or tell a different story than there, it lets you as the viewer decide to put all those pieces together.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's most powerful about it.
Yes.
So
I agree.
I think that's good. And the other fun part on the side is just to get a little less serious.
Hair, makeup, and costume.
A little more superficial.
Yeah.
Matt Damon looks, when I say they look phenomenal, they also look ridiculous.
Yeah, phenomenally ridiculous.
Matt Damon with his mullet and cheek scar.
And he's just like husky and trailer trash-ish looking.
Ben Affleck with his like bleached platinum blonde hair. And eccentric outfits.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. And Jodie Comer looks gorgeous, but we were saying Matt Damon looks trailer trash.
Well, the two of them, Damon and Affleck, look like two trailer park bros. One's the dirt bike riding mullet kid.
And one's the meth head.
The meth head in the back, cooking up meth in his trailer.
Yeah.
Set in the late 1300s of France. So anyway, public service announcement over. Go see The Last Duel.
Go
Rent
see
it.
Do it. Don't miss it.
$5 or $6 online.
It's awesome.
It's worth
You'll
seeing
love it.
big budget Hollywood films.
Good. It's a good one.
Also trying to have some bit of social commentary in them as well.
Definitely.
without being too heavy-handed.
Absolutely.
All right. It's Christmas Eve. We need to walk
Merry
home.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. There's our cheers.
Cheers.
And until our next episode.
Until the next one.
Bye.
Bye.